Azadeh Pourzand is a PhD researcher at the University of London, focusing on women's activism in Iran. She's also the executive director of a foundation dedicated to promoting freedom of expression in Iran, and she joins us from London. Azadeh, thanks a lot for bearing with us while we were with the UN Security Council. Can you tell us who exactly is protesting? Is it possible to point to a particular section of society, young or with particular political opinions?
I would say that what you see in the streets of Iran is a protest by your average, ordinary Iranians. So these are not necessarily your typical activists or political dissidents per se, but these are average Iranians, and in particular women, who are simply sick and tired of humiliation, of discrimination, and have also bigger, larger grievances when it comes to governance in Iran, and see their freedom as evident in their slogans to be basically at an impasse unless the Islamic Republic fundamentally changes its behavior, which doesn't seem to be possible, or is no longer ruling the country.
I mean, some of the pictures we're seeing here show what look like direct confrontations and street battles almost between the security officials and the protesters. Are you saying that the protests are more than just about women's rights?
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. And I say this because women's rights in Iran has basically, it is now a very much a political discussion, a political issue, because the Islamic Republic of Iran has historically made women's bodies, the limitations that it has put forth on women, as a core part of its ideological rule, as its propaganda. Women had, during the Iran-Iraq war, had to wear the veil according to the slogans that was there, so that the nation, the Islamic nation, would be protected against the enemy. So this is really a political issue. And women of Iran, just as men of Iran, are also experiencing a lot of other challenges, such as the socio-economic crisis, such as the climate crisis, such as the political crisis in Iran. And when a protest like this erupts, is a continuation of the grievances that the Iranians have been coming to the streets for ever since at least 2017 in nationwide protests. 2019 we saw in May as well. And this is yet another episode of a continuous series of ordinary Iranians expressing their grievances in the streets, risking their lives, and basically not fearing death or detention or being wounded by the forces.
Generally, when these protests happen, as you say, there have been previous instances, and some of those protests have lasted for months. Is there some kind of central organization, or are they just disparate movements in different cities around the country? I understand there have been various interruptions to internet access in Iran, and there was just an international watchdog said that there was one currently happening about 20 minutes ago.
Absolutely, and I think you raise a good question, and in a way you answered your own question. I think that there is, I know that there is no central organization to any of these protests, but at the same time, I wouldn't call them disparate or sporadic. There is a continuity to them, and I think as you mentioned, internet and the social media and the connectivity of people inside the country, outside the country, in the peripheries, in the center, coalesces essentially on social media, and then erupts on the street. And also, it was expected for all of us that the Islamic Republic, as part of its crackdown, will shut down the internet sooner or later. And it is because they strongly think that once they shut down the internet, two things will happen. Visibility will stop on an international stage, and so they usually just kill more people when the internet is disrupted. And also people are unable to connect more with one another in order to stay on the street, to plan their next move. But there is no central leadership per se. And it is essentially, in a way, a crowdsourced kind of a movement from the grassroots, if you will.
Azadeh Pourzand, thank you so much for your time, Azadeh. Really appreciate it.